Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Talk Sports Show with Alec Pecano on Tuesday, December 5th. Today's show, I'll be going over my fantasy football best performance of the week, in my waiver wire, and some college basketball upset. Let's get right into it. My fantasy football best performance of the week goes to Dolphins running back Devon Achane. 73 yards rushing and 2 rushing touchdowns. And I hope, while he was injured, you didn't drop him, because I'm going to use the word that most people don't use. He could be a league winner for you in fantasy football. And now here is my waiver wire. And the rule is these players need to be under 80% rostered. And we had a couple big injuries at quarterback this week. One being Kenny Pickett with an ankle injury. And I'm going to give you my top 5 quarterbacks to add off the waiver wire. QB number 1 being Matthew Stafford of the Rams, 32% rostered. At the beginning of the season, I was kind of low on Stafford to begin the season. But now, seeing as though he's got, Puka Nakua's came out of nowhere. I don't think anybody was expecting Nakua to be as good as he actually is. And I hope you didn't drop Puka Nakua, because that's a mistake if you did. And you still got Cooper Kupp and Kyron Williams, who kind of came out of nowhere as well. But Matthew Stafford is my top quarterback ad. My number 2 quarterback ad is Jordan Love. And I know there's points throughout the season where I wasn't as high on Jordan Love and didn't think he's the answer quarterback. Now I do. And he's my number 2 waiver ad for QBs. Number 3, Jake Money Man Browning. I gave up. I'm a Bengals fan. I'm a Buccaneers and Bengals fan. And when Burrow went down for the Bengals, I said, oh no, these Bengals season's done. Well, I might be wrong. But watching that game last night, Jake Browning, he looks like a serviceable guy to be the starting quarterback the rest of this year until Burrow comes back next year. And he can also help you win for fantasy football games. If you need a quarterback in the playoffs because you had Kyler Murray or Sam Howell, I would recommend picking up Jake Browning. And Jake Browning, I believe, was QB1 in fantasy this week with over 300 yards passing. My number 4 QB to add. And this one, I would be the top 2 guys, I'd put maybe 10% of your fab on. 3 and 4. Browning, maybe 10%. Desmond Ridder, 5%. I would only put 5% of your fab down on Desmond Ridder, unless you're desperate and you had either Kenny Pickett or Trevor Lawrence, which Trevor Lawrence injury happened last night. And I'm going to say, if you had Trevor Lawrence, monitor the injury report and keep an eye on Trevor Lawrence to see if he plays this week. If he doesn't play this week, you can either pick up Desmond Ridder or CJ Beathard. And the last guy to add is Gardner Minshew of the Colts, 10% rostered. He is another guy that I think can help you win a fantasy championship. My top 5. Actually, we're going to do it this way. My top 5 kickers / defense and special teams to add. Number 1, and I talked about them last week, the Buccaneers. I understand they played Carolina yesterday, and Carolina is not very good. But they've got Atlanta and Green Bay the next 2 weeks. I think they're a really good streaming option the first 2 weeks of the fantasy playoffs. My number 2 defense to add is the Chargers defense. Yes, I understand they played New England last week, and New England is horrendous. But I still see an avenue where the Chargers could help you win a fantasy championship. Number 3 defense to add, the Denver Broncos. Their defense has been playing really good the last 5 weeks, and they're 11% rostered, which I think is absolutely criminal. They should be a higher roster percentage. And number 4 is a kicker. 4, 5, and 6 are kickers. 4, Will Lutz, Broncos. The Broncos are scoring a lot more points lately, even though they lost on Sunday. I think if you need a kicker because you had Matt Prater or Joey Sly, go out and add Will Lutz. Same thing with Chris Boswell. If you had a kicker that is on bye this week, like Joey Sly or Matt Prater, go out and add Chris Boswell. The Steelers have seemed to get their mess together and are playing better. So I'm going to say go out and put a waiver claim in for Chris Boswell and Packers kicker Anders Carlson. Please correct me if I said that wrong, because I don't know if I said that wrong, but I think it's Anders Carlson. The Packers beat Kansas City, and I was not expecting that. But the Packers offense, there's a few guys on the Packers I do want. One of them being A.J. Dillon, the other one being Jordan Love, and I want their kicker. Top running backs to add. Now, the first one, he should be rostered in more leagues, and that is Tyjae Spears. And this is a PSA. If you're a Derrick Henry owner, you should have Tyjae Spears on your roster as his handcuff. Because what if I'm pretty sure Derrick Henry got hurt on Sunday. He did. And they said he was in concussion protocol, but then Mike Vrabel came out and said that he's not in concussion protocol, but he does have an injury. But the luxury here is that the Titans play Monday night against Miami. So therefore, Tyjae Spears is still my top running back. Add number 2, Ezekiel Elliott. And this is another guy, if you had Ramondre Stevenson, that you should have had stashed on your roster on the bench, because we love running back handcuffs. And Zeke is going to be, Ramondre Stevenson's going to miss a few weeks. They've already came out. Adam Schefter reported, which I trust Adam Schefter. He is a very reliable source. Ramondre Stevenson's going to miss a couple weeks. And Ezekiel Elliott is going to be the starting running back. You may see a little Ty Montgomery, maybe 10 to 15%, but Zeke is going to be the number 1 running back. Well, Ramondre Stevenson's out. And if Zeke is available, which he's available in 34% of leagues on ESPN, I don't know how much it is on Yahoo, Sleeper, or other sites, but on ESPN he's 34% rostered. So he's still out there in a reasonable amount of leagues, which means that He is probably available in your league. And if you had Ramondre Stevenson, unless you have another backup running back, another running back on your bench that's better than Zeke, I would at least go out and put a waiver claim in for Zeke to see what he can do as the starter in New England. Because let's face it, they have Devontae Parker's not that good of a wide receiver. They don't really have any skill position players. And they don't. Bailey Zappi's another guy that maybe if you're desperate at quarterback that I would add, but I don't recommend wasting fab on him. Number 3, Zach Charbonnet. And you see he is 70% rostered, which means he is still out there in not as many leagues as Zeke, but he's still available in certain and some leagues, which I don't know why. Here's another one. If you have Kenneth Walker, why don't you have Zach Charbonnet? Zach Charbonnet is the backup to Kenneth Walker, but Zach Charbonnet has started the last 2 games. So I would advise to go out and put a waiver claim in for Zach Charbonnet if he is available in your league, as he would be a good fill-in. Because the other thing is, not only if you don't have Kenneth Walker, but Zach Charbonnet is available in your league, go put a waiver claim in and block one of your league mates that maybe does have Kenneth Walker from picking up putting a waiver claim in for Zach Charbonnet and getting him. And you could block them from getting Charbonnet, and say you have Aaron Jones. We don't know when Aaron Jones is going to be back. So what sense does it make to just keep riding A.J. Dillon? A.J. Dillon's a good running back, but if you have Zach Charbonnet, who's in a better offense than A.J. Dillon is in Green Bay, I would put a waiver claim in for Zach Charbonnet. Now, number 4, Rico Dowdle from the Cowboys, 9.9% roster. And this, I mean, you could, if you're in a deep league, this is a deep league ad. And also for Tony Pollard owners, if Rico Dowdle should be available on your waiver wire. If you're a Tony Pollard owner, I highly recommend putting a waiver claim in for Rico Dowdle, because what if Tony Pollard gets hurt? Rico Dowdle would instantly become RB1, and he would be a top 15 running back, because Dallas has a really good offensive line, and I would love to have the RB1 of Dallas. Right now that's Tony Pollard, but like I said, if he gets hurt, that could be Rico Dowdle. And this last one is for Gus Edwards owners or people that are in need of a running back. Keaton Mitchell, 30.7% rostered. Like I just said about Rico Dowdle, Keaton Mitchell's the same thing. He's a handcuff, but he's a good flex too, because he does get touches, and I would highly recommend adding Keaton Mitchell to your roster. My top 5 wide receiver ads. Number 1, Jonathan Mingo, Carolina Panthers, 12.1% rostered. Now, I saw some encouraging steps from Jonathan Mingo yesterday. He had 10 targets. He had 6 catches for around 60 yards. And it seems like Carolina is trying to get him more involved in the offense now that Frank Reich is not the coach anymore. So, therefore, if he's available in your league, which he probably is, he's only 12% rostered. So, if you need a wide receiver, because you had Greg Dortch, Marquise Brown, Rondell Moore, Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel, I would go out and put a waiver claim in for Jonathan Mingo. My second wide receiver to add off the waiver wire this week, Quentin Johnston, Chargers. 27.2% rostered. Now you may be saying, why would you put a waiver claim in for Quentin Johnston? I'm going to explain. He's another guy that I saw encouraging. I was very encouraged by how much usage he got yesterday. How many targets, how many catches. It seems like that second half breakout that normally happens for rookies is starting to happen for Quentin Johnston. And he was taken in the first round. And people were halfway through his rookie year. When Mike Williams first went down, and same with Josh Palmer, everybody was saying that Quentin Johnston was a bust. And I defend first round picks. And here's what I have to say about that. Give him time. And look what if you don't give a guy time to develop and wait, be patient. That's what some of these draft picks you have to wait, like A.T. Perry in New Orleans. He's buried on the depth chart, but now with Michael Thomas and Rashid Shaheed, he's getting playing time. It's the same way with Quentin Johnston. He had guys in front of him. They got hurt. I don't wish injuries upon anybody, but I think Quentin Johnston is due for a breakout here in the second half of the season. Number 3, Noah Brown, Houston Texans, 34% rostered. Noah Brown needs to be rostered in more leagues, especially for those of you that had Tank Dell. Tank Dell is done for the season. He hurt his ankle yesterday, and that's disappointing. He was having a really good rookie season, but Noah Brown, and we saw this earlier in the season when Tank Dell missed a couple games. Noah Brown stepped up and became a revelation that we picked up off the waiver wire, and I think he can do that again because he's going to be a every down player now that Tank Dell is out. Nico Collins is probably still the number 1. But I do like Noah Brown as a waiver wire add. Number 4, Rashid Rice, who needs to be rostered in every single league. He is slowly taking over the number 1 wide receiver spot in Kansas City. He is 62.7% rostered. I like Rashid Rice, especially if you're in Dynasty and he's somehow on your waiver wire still. Go pick him up. And the last one is Tyler Boyd, wide receiver, Cincinnati Bengals, 47.1% rostered. Now, all I'm going to say is that as I talked about his quarterback a minute ago, and I would put a waiver claim in for Tyler Boyd if he's out there in your league. And now, the last position I'm going to talk about is tight ends. And my number 1 tight end ad is a guy I didn't think we would be talking about in the waiver wire at all this year. Tanner Hudson, Cincinnati Bengals, 4% rostered. He has come out of nowhere the last 4 or 5 weeks at tight end for Cincinnati. And I think if you need a tight end that you can add Tanner Hudson and start him because he is going to get targets from Jake Browning. If you notice, this is the 3rd Cincinnati Bengal I have talked about today. Number 2, Chiggy Okonkwo from the Titans. 26.6% rostered. I like Chiggy Okonkwo. And I've noticed that the Titans have been getting him more and more involved in the offense over the last few weeks. if he's available in your league, which he probably will be, I would recommend going out and adding Chig Okonkwo and putting in a waiver claim for him. Number 3, Jawan Johnson. And yes, I know what y'all are going to say. Why is Taysom Hill not on here? I could have put both things tight ends on here, but I chose Jawan Johnson because Jawan Johnson, technically, by nature, he is a tight end. Where Taysom Hill is the, how do I say this? Gadget player. He lines up at tight end. He lines up at wide receiver. He lines up at running back. Lines up at quarterback. So he lines up a little bit of everywhere. But yes, if Jawan Johnson is not available in your league, but which he should be, only 34% rostered, I would also go out and check if Taysom Hill is out available on your waiver wire. Here's the thing. I would say make it more of a priority to get Jawan Johnson than Taysom Hill. Because Jawan Johnson gets a lot of targets. Taysom Hill, like I said, is a gadget player, which means he does a little bit of everything for the Saints. But I'm going to say caution if you do put a waiver claim out for Jawan Johnson, be cautious quarterback's going to be, because Derek Carr is injured, and I think as of before I recorded this, Derek Carr, I believe, is in the concussion protocol, and he had numerous other injuries that he suffered yesterday. So, if Derek Carr misses any time, Jameis Winston is going to be the starting quarterback. My number 4 tight end to add is Cade Otton, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, if you watched my stuff into preseason on fantasy football, I had said that Cade Otton would emerge as a top 15 to top 20 tight end this year in fantasy football. And I think I got that correct. And I said he would emerge as the next good tight end for the Buccaneers. And it looks like he has. He is only 33% rostered. So I would go out, and if he's available and you need a tight end because you're in Trey McBride, who is on bye this week, I would go out and add Cade Otton. Now, this last one, I don't understand why he's been dropped in so many leagues. I know he's been out for 4 weeks, almost 5 weeks now with an injury. Dallas Goedert, Philadelphia Eagles, 74.2% rostered. Now, you see, Dallas Goedert is a top 10 tight end when healthy for the Eagles. And he should be back this week. If he isn't, then he's going to be back next week. But I think he comes back this week against Dallas. And if he's available in your league, I would go out and put a waiver claim in for him. And that wraps up the fantasy football portion of the video of the show today. Next, I will be giving you some college basketball upsets. And just a heads up, Friday's show is going to be college basketball upsets for Friday and Saturday, and game picks for college basketball for Friday and Saturday. But tonight, I've got Queens +7 upset Winthrop. I've watched a lot of Queens University basketball. They are in the Atlantic Sun. And I really like them to pull the upset here against Winthrop. Winthrop has not been that good this year. And I'm willing to go with Queens to pull the upset here. Now, you can say that this is me being stupid because I'm playing with fire and I've been burned once by UConn. And I was picking them to upset Kansas last week. Now I'm going the other way. I've got North Carolina +6 to upset UConn. Now, here's the issue with this is, could I get burned again for picking against UConn? For picking against UConn this time? Yes. Logically, yes, I could. And does it happen? Very good possibility that I get burned for picking North Carolina to upset UConn. But I do think there's an avenue where the upset does happen here. Syracuse is another team I've picked against a couple times, and I've lost both times I've picked against them. Is the third time the charm here when picking against Syracuse. When picking against Syracuse to get upset. I hope I have Cornell +4.5 to upset Syracuse. Now, this line was at 3. Then it went up to 4.5, and that's where it is right now. If you want to jump on the line while it's at 4.5, I would recommend doing that. But be careful, because it could go up again or it could go down before the game starts tonight. My first cover pick for college basketball. Michigan State -5 to cover the point spread against Wisconsin. Now, I like this for reasons. Michigan State has been, they're a better basketball school than they are football. And I like them to cover their spread here against Wisconsin. Wisconsin is ranked. But, and this is a big but, can Michigan State slow down Wisconsin? If they can, I think they win this game. If they don't, they'll lose. Number 2 cover is Ole Miss -15 to cover against Mount St. Mary's. Cover the spread against Mount St. Mary's. Ole Miss is another school that's really good at basketball and football, but I haven't used them in cover picks for basketball yet. This is the first time I'm using them, and I think they could cover against Mount St. Mary's. Mount St. Mary's is not that good. And my last cover pick, and this is a risk I'm willing to take. Indiana +7 to cover the point spread against Michigan. Now, call me crazy, but Michigan has been very hit or miss so far early in the college basketball season. And I like Indiana's chances. I saw them against Maryland last week. I watched their game against Maryland last week, and they held Maryland under 70 points. And if they can do that against Michigan, I think they got a chance of not only covering, but I think they can win this game against Michigan and upset them. Now, like I said, you can call me crazy for that, but I think it might happen. And if you're enjoying the video, please leave a thumbs up, as it helps the YouTube algorithm. And I offer memberships. I will be, at some point, probably tomorrow or Thursday, I will be updating the membership perks. So be looking out for that. But if you want a membership, I highly recommend purchasing a membership, as it helps you get to know me a little better, and it also helps the channel grow. And if we get enough members, I will have a Discord or a Patreon where everybody from all the Talk Sports family members can chat outside of the YouTube videos and the community polls I put up. So let's try to get the let's try to gain 10 new members this month. And let's get to 10 members by the end of the month. The cheapest membership is 99 cents, and the most expensive membership is $9.99 a month. So, if you feel generous, please buy a membership. And also, I offer merch. And I've been needing to put the merch link in the bio, in the description of the videos, and I'm going to after this video is over. So if you feel like you need some merch, please buy some merch. But ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it for me today. I will see you tomorrow. Just a little programming note. Next week, Monday's show will not be a Talk Sports show. It'll probably be the Falcons franchise off-season episode on YouTube. So feel free to join in on that as we get the draft done and free agency. But the rest of this week, there is shows. Tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday. But ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it for me today. I will see you later. Peace. Peace out.